Welcome to the Scenario Podcast, your guide to mental health and well-being. Each episode, we uncover practical tools, discuss expert insights, and explore how supplements can transform your mental health journey. Get ready to learn, grow, and thrive with us.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Our mission, as always, is to cut through all that noise and get you, straight to the important stuff. And, in this nonstop world we live in, it feels like almost everyone struggles with sleep at some point. Maybe it's that frustration of just tossing and turning, or waking up constantly. Or, oh man, that awful feeling of jet lag. Sleep issues are just everywhere. And honestly, it's no surprise so many of us are looking for natural ways to get that rest back. So today, we're doing a deep dive into two
That's exactly right. And look, this isn't just about feeling a bit tired. These common sleep problems, we're talking chronic insomnia, jet lag, messing with your head, anxiety keeping you up, they really do take a toll. Significant one. They impact your focus, your mood, how you function day to day, and critically, your long-term health, both physical and mental. So finding support that works, that's appropriate for you. It's absolutely crucial for, getting back that restorative sleep and just feeling better overall.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Before we even talk about what they do, I think it's key we understand how they work, right? Because they come at sleep from totally different directions. It's like they have different jobs in your body's sleep system.
Precisely. Different mechanisms entirely. Let's start with melatonin. What's really interesting here is that melatonin isn't like a foreign substance. It's a hormone. Your own body makes it. There's a tiny gland in your brain, the pineal gland, and it's super sensitive to light and dark. That's what produces melatonin, its main job. Basically managing your sleep-wake cycle, your circadian rhythm. Think of it as your body's internal 24-hour clock.
The master clock.
Kind of, yeah. It tells you when to feel sleepy and when to feel awake. So as it gets dark outside, your body naturally ramps up melatonin production. That's the signal. Okay, time to wind down, prepare for sleep. So when you take a melatonin supplement, you're essentially giving your body an extra push of that signal. This can be really helpful if your internal clock is out of sync.
Like shift workers or travelers.
Exactly. Shift workers, people dealing with jet lag, their clocks are all over the place. Melatonin can act like a reset button. It helps guide your body back to a more natural rhythm.
Okay, so melatonin isn't really trying to knock you out like a sedative would. It's more about gently nudging your system, saying, hey, the time is now, especially if life threw your schedule off.
That's a great way to put it. It's a time setter, not a knockout drug.
Gotcha. And are there common, pitfalls people fall into, maybe confusing that clock manager role with just a general sleep aid?
Oh, absolutely. That's a crucial distinction. The biggest mistake is using it to try and force sleep when the actual problem isn't timing at all. Say you're super stressed, but your internal clock is actually fine. Taking melatonin might make you feel a bit drowsy, maybe, but it's not tackling the root cause, the stress.
Right. It's not an anti-anxiety pill.
Not at all. It's primarily for timing adjustments. Now, Valerian root, completely different story. It's an herbal supplement, comes from a plant. And it works on your brain chemistry in a different way. Valerian seems to work by increasing the levels of something called GABA. That's gamma-aminobutyric acid in your brain.
GABA, okay. I've heard of that. The calming neurotransmitter.
Exactly. GABA's job is basically to promote relaxation, to reduce nerve excitability. So by boosting GABA activity, Valerian helps to kind of quiet things down, mind and body. This makes it easier to relax and just naturally drift off to sleep. It doesn't force sleep like some prescription meds might. It's more about creating the right conditions, that calm state, for sleep to happen on its own. Which makes it potentially really useful if your sleeplessness comes from anxiety or stress or just that feeling of your mind racing,
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting for me, because that's a totally different pathway, isn't it? So if melatonin is the clock manager, Valerian is more like the calm down button, especially if worry or stress is the main thing keeping you awake.
You've got it. Valerian is less about when your body thinks it should sleep and much more about quieting that internal noise, that mental chatter that stops you from sleeping.
So it's tackling the anxiety, the restlessness itself.
Precisely. It's easing the tension, the overstimulation. It's addressing the quality of your calm, not just the timing.
Okay, understanding how they work is one piece. But the big question for most people, I think, is, do they actually work? What does the science say? And crucially, how fast can you expect to see results? This is where, the rubber meets the road.
Absolutely. Let's look at melatonin first. Here, the scientific backing is pretty strong, actually. We have numerous studies, meta-analyses. They consistently show it's effective in a few key ways. For instance, it's quite good at reducing the time it takes to fall asleep, what scientists call sleep latency.
Right, how long you lie there waiting.
Exactly. It also seems to help improve overall sleep quality, making sleep feel more refreshing. And as we discussed, it's particularly well supported for fixing those circadian rhythm problems.
Jet lag, shift work, that stuff.
It really shines in those short-term situations, or for people who have what's called delayed sleep phase disorder, basically. They're natural night owls. Now, speed-wise, melatonin usually starts working pretty quickly, typically within, say, 30 to 60 minutes after you take it. The effects can last a while, up to 12 hours maybe, depending on the dose and the type, like if it's extended release. But it's mostly used for that initial push into sleep. This quick onset makes it ideal for those immediate short-term adjustments. Crossing time zones, needing to shift your schedule for a specific event, that kind of thing.
So quick adjustment needed, new time zone, big day tomorrow. Melatonin seems like the obvious first thought, your rapid response time shifter. You also mentioned something interesting earlier about less is more with melatonin. Why is that? Can taking too much actually backfire?
That's a fantastic question. And yeah, it's a common misunderstanding. People think more melatonin equals deeper sleep, but that's not quite right. Higher doses can actually be counterproductive. How? Well, research suggests doses much higher than what your body naturally produces can lead to next-day grogginess, that melatonin hangover feeling.
Okay. Not ideal.
Not ideal at all. And maybe even more importantly, some experts worry that consistently taking really high doses might mess with your body's own natural melatonin production over time. You could become more reliant on the supplement and maybe even dampen your pineal gland's ability to work properly on its own.
So you might actually hinder your natural rhythm in the long run.
It's a concern, yeah. Remember, the goal isn't to knock you out. It's to gently nudge that internal clock. And often, a really small dose, like 0.5 milligrams, maybe 1 milligram, is just as effective for clock setting as a big 5 milligram dose, but with fewer side effects.
Less really can be more then. Good to know.
Definitely. Now, switching gears to Valerian root. The scientific evidence here is, well, a bit more mixed, but still promising overall. You'll find studies showing, yes, it significantly improves sleep quality, helps people fall asleep faster. But then you'll find other studies showing minimal effects.
Why the difference?
It's likely down to a few things. The specific doses used in the studies can vary wildly. The type of valerian matters too. Are we talking tea, dried root capsules, a standardized extract? They aren't all the same.
Right. Quality control, maybe?
That's a big part of it, with herbal supplements, yes. And also, just individual biology. People respond differently. But despite that mixed picture in the research, a lot of people do report finding it genuinely helpful, especially for ongoing sleep issues tied to anxiety or stress.
Yeah.
The general feeling is that it's a solid option to consider, particularly if your nervous system feels, constantly on. But here's the key difference in timing. Valerian root is not an instant fix like melatonin can be. Its calming effects tend to build up gradually. You often need to take it consistently every night for several days, maybe even a few weeks, before you really notice the full benefit.
Weeks. Okay, that's important.
Yes, consistency is absolutely crucial. It's not a one-off pill for a bad night. It's more suited for managing chronic anxiety or that general restlessness that keeps you up night after night. Think of it as more of a long-game strategy.
That really highlights a major difference for you, the listener, doesn't it? If your sleep problem is driven by stress or anxiety, and it's been going on for a while, Valerian sounds like it offers that cumulative support, but you need patience. It's not flipping a switch. So given that it takes time to work, are there ways to, bridge that gap, manage expectations while you wait for it to kick in?
That's a really practical point. Patience is number one, honestly. But you can definitely support the process. Pairing Valerian with really solid sleep hygiene habits is key. Regular bedtime, dark, cool room, maybe a calming routine before bed, reading, gentle stretching, whatever works for you.
Setting the stage.
Exactly. Set the stage while the valerian builds up. Some people might occasionally use a tiny bit of melatonin for an acute bad night during that initial period, but again, you have to be careful, think about interactions.
And talk to a doctor, probably.
Always the best advice. But mostly, it's about managing expectations. Knowing it's a gradual build, not instant relief, makes a huge difference.
Okay, so we know how they work, roughly how fast, what the science says. But the next big hurdle for many listeners is safety.
Right.
Because even natural doesn't mean zero risks. What do we absolutely need to know about potential side effects or, crucially, interactions?
Critical point, absolutely. Let's start with melatonin again. Generally, it's considered safe for short-term use. That's the key phrase, short-term. But like anything, it can have side effects. The most common ones people report are things like headaches, maybe some dizziness, and sometimes really vivid or strange dreams.
Vivid dreams. Interesting.
Yeah, it happens. But the really crucial thing is potential interactions with medications. This is where you need to be careful. Melatonin can interact with quite a few things, blood thinners, for example, some antidepressants, drugs that suppress the immune system. These interactions could make the medication less effective or worse, amplify side effects. So that's a serious consideration.
Definitely need a heads up on that.
And remember what we said about high doses. Besides the hangover effect, there's some evidence they might suppress REM sleep. And REM sleep is vital for memory, emotional processing. You don't want to mess with that long term. Dosage-wise, recommendations usually range from 0.5 milligrams up to maybe 5 milligrams. But as we discussed, those lower doses, 0.5 to 1 milligram, are often just as good for adjusting the clock and have fewer side effects.
Okay. So short-term, low dose seems safest for melatonin. What about valerian?
Valerian root generally has a low risk of dependency, which is definitely a plus compared to some prescription sleep aids. Side effects are usually pretty mild if people get them at all, maybe some minor stomach upset or perhaps a headache. However, a caveat, there's just less long-term research on valerian compared to melatonin, so using it for very extended periods, well, we just don't know as much. A bit more caution is probably wise there.
And interaction.
Yes, interactions are key here too. Valerian can definitely enhance the effects of other things that make you drowsy. Other sedatives. Think alcohol, certain anti-anxiety meds, even some antihistamines, allergy pills that make you sleepy. Combining them could lead to excessive sedation.
Like dangerously drowsy?
Potentially, yes.
Yeah.
Too drowsy to drive safely, impairing coordination. It's a real risk. For dosage, if you're using a standardized extract, it's often in the 300 to 600 milligram range. If it's the dried root itself, like in teas or simple capsules, the amount might be higher, maybe 2 to 3 grams, and usually you take about 1 to 2 hours before bed. And again, that consistency piece, nightly use, tends to work best for building up the effect.
So stepping back from the specifics, the absolutely vital takeaway here for either supplement is this. Talk to your doctor or a healthcare provider before you start taking them.
Seriously, cannot stress that enough. No, it's not just a formality, especially if you're taking any other medications, even over-the-counter ones, or if you have any ongoing health conditions, like liver problems or depression. They can help you figure out if it's safe for you, check for those potential interactions, and make sure it's actually the right approach for your specific sleep issue. It's about personalized, safe advice.
That guidance is just essential. Okay, so let's bring it down to the practical level. You're standing there in the pharmacy aisle looking at the shelves. How do you choose? Let's tackle a couple of common questions people probably have right at that moment.
Sounds good. A really frequent one is, my problem is anxiety keeping me awake. Which one is better for that? And for that specific situation, anxiety-related insomnia, valerian root is generally considered the more effective choice.
Because of the GABA connection.
Exactly. Because it works directly on the nervous system to increase GABA, helping to reduce that stress response, promoting relaxation more directly. Melatonin, remember, is mainly about timing. It signals sleep time, but it doesn't inherently calm an anxious mind. So if anxiety is the clear driver of your sleeplessness, valerian is likely the more targeted approach. Okay, another big question. Can I take both? Melatonin and valerian root together? Short answer. Yes, technically it's possible. Some people do. However, and this is a big however.
Uh-oh, here comes the caution again.
You guessed it. It is strongly recommended you talk to a healthcare provider before even thinking about combining them. Why? Because even though they work differently, you could get synergistic effects, meaning their combined impact might be much stronger than you expect. Way too much drowsiness. Or there could be unforeseen interactions, especially if you're taking other medications alongside them.
Right, stacking effects you didn't anticipate.
Precisely. So a doctor can help assess if it's safe and appropriate for you, considering your whole health picture. Don't just experiment on your own.
That clear distinction, timing versus calming, is so vital when you're trying to figure out your own sleep puzzle. And building on that, maybe for listeners who are a bit more clued in, are there nuances around, say, different types of melatonin, like fast release versus extended release, or with valerian, those standardization issues you mentioned, things we're thinking about when buying?
Oh, absolutely. Those are excellent points, really practical ones. With melatonin, yes, fast release versus extended release is a key choice. Fast release is designed to help you fall asleep quicker, right at the beginning of the night. Extended release, on the other hand, releases melatonin more slowly, aiming to help you stay asleep longer.
So onset versus maintenance.
Exactly. Your choice should depend on where your main struggle lies, falling asleep, or waking up too early or too often. And with Valerian, or really any herbal supplement, that standardization issue is huge. Remember the mixed evidence.
Yeah.
A lot of that likely comes down to inconsistent products. A standardized extract means the manufacturer has tried to ensure a consistent amount of the suspected active compounds, like valerianic acids, in each dose.
So you know what you're actually getting.
Hopefully, yes. It's more reliable than just buying generic dried root, where the potency could vary significantly from batch to batch. Look for products that list an extract ratio or a percentage of specific compounds. It usually indicates a higher quality, more consistent product.
That is incredibly helpful. Those details can make a real difference. Okay, so let's try and tie this all together for you, the listener. Here's the quick summary. Melatonin. Think of it as your internal clock manager. Best for timing problems, jet lag, shift work adjustments. It tells your body when it's time to sleep. Valerian root. That's more about calming your nervous system. Really useful if anxiety, stress, that racing mind feeling is what's keeping you awake. It helps you relax enough to sleep.
Exactly. And what that ultimately means is that choosing between them really truly depends on your specific sleep challenge, your needs. It is definitely not a one-size-fits-all situation. The first step, always, is understanding your own sleep patterns. What's triggering the problem? What kind of help does your body actually need? Once you have a better handle on that, you can make a much more informed choice. It's about being an active participant in figuring out your own sleep health.
Right. So as you think about your own path to better sleep, maybe moving beyond just these supplements for a second, here's a final thought to consider. What small, consistent changes could you make in your daily life, your routine, that would naturally support the very things these supplements are trying to influence? Could it be as simple as dimming the lights an hour before bed, finally committing to a regular bedtime? Or maybe just finding 5 minutes for some deep breathing or quiet reflection before you turn in? Sometimes the biggest improvements start with those really fundamental basic shifts, something to think about.
Thanks for tuning in to the Scenario Podcast. Don't forget to visit scenario.com for more expert tips, articles, and supplements designed to support your mental health. If you enjoyed this episode, remember to subscribe and share it with a friend. Until next time, take care of yourself.